Bienvenue au good, le bad et le kino. I'm Moses,
Bonjour,
and
monsieur.
this is Ryan, my co-host on the podcast. What are we doing this week? We talk about movies every week, but this week we're talking about Portrait de la jeune fille en feu.
Where are my cigarettes?
Where my baguette?
French cinema.
For context, I'm allowed to do to make fun of French people and do the accent because I speak French and I was born in France, so I'm allowed.
I mean, I wasn't born in France. I've lived there twice, Switzerland once, and I speak French also mostly fluently. My grammar's not as good as it used to be, but I would need to practice my grammar to come back up. Well, we don't really practice it. We're not in high school. We were able to, and now it's not really like that.
No,
maybe we should practice with each other from time to time. That's an idea.
That'd be funny.
All right. Well, Moses, why are we talking about French and?
Because Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is the movie we're talking about this week, one of my favorite movies of 2019. I talked about it briefly in my the first episode of the podcast on our favorite movies of 2019.
Yep.
I listed it as my number 4. Now it's sitting towards my number 6 in retrospect.
Okay. How many times have you seen it?
3 full times paying full attention.
3 full times, okay.
Last night I also the 3 full times every time in a theater because I saw it. I saw the second ever public UK screening of it at the BFI Film Festival.
Yeah, this is a good story actually. Yeah,
the cast was there, and that was all super interesting. And then I saw it with my.
Really cool.
I showed it to my parents when it was playing in Amsterdam, where they live. I can't remember. Maybe it was January. Maybe it was before that. I can't remember. And then I saw it again in February. So I've seen it.
That's good. Well, the
I think it's incredible.
The time in February when you saw it, you said like it was slightly ruined for you.
Not the fault of the film. I think I mentioned this to you in private. I think or at the end of the last episode, but it was in a packed theater because it was like it was Valentine's Day. I saw it with my ex-girlfriend, and it was the first day it was playing in the UK, and we had the tickets, but it was still super busy, fully packed in the biggest theater in that cinema, and you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it's pretty big, full of people, and the film doesn't have a non-diegetic score.
Yeah,
and so
it does not.
You can hear everyone in the theater, which normally isn't a problem when everyone's respectful. But for some reason, people were constantly getting up and leaving to go to the bathroom. But like more than I've ever seen in a movie before. Constantly. When there was always someone standing up. I didn't get it.
Did you see A Quiet Place in the theater?
Yes, and I had no problem with that.
Yeah, me neither. I was going to say I had a really good experience with that film, and it was kind of similar. So I was really surprised, especially on Valentine's Day. You'd think people would be respectful, but
I don't get why so many people were people standing up to go to the bathroom. Completely normal. You have to. I don't get what was happening because it was nonstop, constant flow of people. It was like a fucking carousel of people just walking in and out.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is going on? Maybe it was something else was going on. I don't know, but it was strange.
Maybe. Well, when you have that many people, sometimes it's hard. Yeah. But that sucks because I'm glad in the context of how I watched it at home, to be honest, rather than in a cinema. So it was my first time watching it yesterday. I hadn't seen it yet. Moses had been on my case to watch it for
let me just remind you. You promised if you watch Ford versus Ferrari, I'm gonna watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That was 6 months ago. You piece of shit.
Well, I did it.
I had to force you because we're doing it for the podcast and I picked it.
Yeah, but I still did it. It still counts.
Fuck you. That's not fair.
Well, and you know what? You enjoyed Ford and Ferrari. You like that film.
I could.
You don't love it, but you like it.
If I had not seen it, my life would be no different. So it's kind of a waste of time.
Okay, you can say that about like there are plenty of great films out there that you're like, well, if I hadn't seen that, like it's not life changing. But
no, but I don't feel like I gained anything from Ford and Ferrari, just even artistically.
It's a good film. I maintain it's a really good film. But yes, this is my first time.
Again, how old are you? Are you 55?
I'm 20, and I'm proud of it. And I like old man films. Like war films are sick, and racing films are great. Like you don't have to be old to like these films. They're good films. But I am like, well, yeah. People have referred to me as like a dad, so that makes sense.
Ryan, can you sit up a bit in the video camera? You're a bit far back.
I can sit forward more. Lighting's still not. There we go.
There you go.
So yeah, this is my first time watching it yesterday, and I was actually I wasn't, to be honest, I know you like it, Moses, but like I wasn't looking forward to it.
I could see why you wouldn't if it's not your type.
Because the lack of a score always makes me really nervous in film. And
what other film does that though?
I can't think of one that comes to mind, but like films that use like it's always bothered me like in action films when they don't use a score. Like I never like that. Like it's a very singular complaint. But to me, I think music adds so much to film that when you take it away in certain moments, it's so noticeable, and it dampers the experience sometimes for me. So I wasn't looking forward to that. And then also it was a 2-hour period piece. So I thought, shit, this is going to be really boring, and the pacing is going to be tough because there's no music, and it's a 2-hour period piece romance with minimal characters. But I thought it was a fantastic film. I thought it was excellent on like almost every level. I have one major complaint.
Ryan, congratulations. You're not homophobic.
Well, thanks. Well, I like Call Me By Your Name. You know, that's a great film. Actually, this reminded me a lot of that.
The ending.
I don't know which is better. The ending is similar.
Better than Call Me By Your Name, the ending, in my opinion.
The ending, I agree. The film overall, I still might give to Call Me By Your Name, but the ending of this film is better than the ending of that film. But I thought it was an absolutely fantastic film, like on every level. Like it was beautifully shot. The lighting was fantastic.
The cinematography is out of this world.
It's great. The sound design is phenomenal, as it should be, because there's no score. Oui, cinema. But I thought on a
scale of escargot to baguette, what would you rate this film in terms of its Frenchiness?
Oof. Escargot to me is like pure French. Baguette isn't. So if it was the other way around.
Yeah, escargot is the most French, and I'd give
it a blue cheese on the spectrum. I give it a blue cheese. But our
rating scale makes absolutely no fucking sense because escargot is incredibly French.
Yeah, but it's also not good. I don't like escargot.
Wait, I love escargot. How do you eat it though? How have you had it before?
The way that I've only ever had it, which is in French restaurants, which is like you take it out of the shell
and you dip it in a sauce,
butter
right?
and garlic. Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah, I love this.
The sauce is great, but it's still that texture that just I don't.
Call me weird. It's not weird because a lot of people love it, but escargot.
No, a lot of people do.
It's beautiful. I love it. I wish I ate it more. But what I was at one place on our senior trip last year, which just ended a year ago today. Jesus Christ.
2 years. 2 years ago for me.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago. That's insane.
Yeah. So when me and my whole school year went to Greece, and they served escargot at the place, at like a buffet, not buffet.
That's so funny. Continue. That's a great little slip up.
Buffet. At the buffet they served escargot, and I was like, yes, my guy, I love it. And then they didn't provide you with garlic, butter, really, or the sauce.
It was just the snail.
Yeah, and that's not what you need the sauce and the.
Yeah, that's literally the whole point of escargot. No. It's like it's not eatable. Like you can't eat it.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It's
just it's nothing. It's nothing. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, I don't hate escargot, but like, I'm also not the one to seek it out. So.
This film is incredibly French.
I do think this is a great.
On multiple levels, this is incredibly French, and I'll get to that later.
I'd like to hear why. I really dislike French cinema, like very strongly so.
Well, you don't have that
90% of the time, I think it's unbelievably pretentious, and it's not for me. So I was very surprised.
How much French cinema have you actually seen outside of like the stuff you had to watch for school, French New Wave stuff? Because I know a lot of people who don't like French New Wave.
I've seen a few French films in our.
I don't like Breathless.
I hate that film.
I appreciate what it did for cinema.
I don't because that whole thing is fabricated. It's a myth because he didn't purposely make jump cuts on purpose. He made a 3-hour film that the studio said, we're not going to release this. Cut it down. So he just made cuts in places to make sure the film was shorter. That's not genius. That's just being lazy. That's a terrible film in my opinion.
The impact it had was tremendous.
Yes, did it have an impact? Sure. But like, it wasn't like Star Wars or something like that where it was intentionally trying to be something, or Jaws, or other landmark films, Gone with the Wind,
Star Wars
things like that.
Was what it was.
Things that, yeah. But to
Star Wars,
that film,
if it had followed George Lucas's original vision, would have been dog shit.
Yeah. Well, everyone knows that film was saved in the editing.
Yes.
But
what's her name?
I can't remember her name. Laura Lucas, it was his wife.
His ex-wife now.
Yeah, his ex-wife.
Star Wars, it's not Laura Lucas. It's someone with an L, I think.
Can't remember.
You keep talking about the movie.
But anyways, yeah, French cinema is really not for me. But this really did surprise me. I thought it was Marcia. I thought it was a beautifully made film. But to me, the thing that really took me off guard the most was actually the strength of its pacing, and that the way in which the romance unfolds and the beats that the story hits comes at like very natural points. So when they actually got to the point, which is actually more than halfway through the film, that they like kiss and like actually fall in love and they actually are together, it feels very earned. And then all the moments after that are so like bittersweet and very emotionally resonant. And maybe for me, I watched this film at just the right time because I'm doing long distance right now and it's really hard. And this film presents like a level of intimacy that I think is rarely shown in film. And again, it reminded me of Call Me by Your Name, but like the closeness of the relationship between the two characters, I thought was excellent. And the way that it slowly developed to that point is, I don't know, it felt so authentic and so real. Like, and I know this is and it was a small thing, and I don't know if it was the director's choice to get the actors to kiss more to make it more authentic, but even the way that they kissed and embraced was different than most other films, and it seemed more real in that sense. Yeah. And like, I was way more involved in their romance and their dilemma and struggle because it was just so well done. And I texted you while I was watching it. It was such a calming film as well because they spent a lot of time on showing her painting.
Yeah.
Which at first I thought was like, you could cut this, but I actually think now, like, seeing the whole what the film's really about, which in my opinion it's really about voyeurism, which we can talk about later.
It completely flips Hitchcock on its head.
It does, and to me that's what the film's really about. And the time that it spends on focusing on her painting reinforces those ideals. So I actually think that's a strong suit of the film.
I forgot to mention this. I found this out only last night, and this is a complete coincidence. This is the week, I think maybe on Friday, but this week, Criterion is releasing Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the Criterion edition of the film.
Oh, really? Perfect timing.
That we're doing it this week. But
let's contact Criterion and be like,
sponsorship, please.
Sponsorship.
Please send me a couple free Criterions.
You buy so many Criterions, I bet they'd be more than happy.
I do not have that many. I have, like, let me check. It's sitting on my desk.
But you are a big supporter.
I have the Criterion channel, which is like their streaming service. I have 4 of their Blu-rays. I have 4. But yeah, complete coincidence. They posted it on Instagram last night. I like that you picked up on the voyeurism. That's beautiful.
Yeah. To me, that's like truly what the film was about, in the sense of, it was about the relationship between the person that's seeing and the person who's watching, and how easily those two things can be switched around. And like the film constantly does that, and like especially at the end, it reinforces that idea. I thought it was a beautiful film. I only have one issue with it. Like, my main complaint is that there's a subplot with the maid of the house and like
abortion
her
subplot.
being pregnant and getting an abortion. And it didn't really go anywhere. It was just there. And it felt like it was there to fill time. And while there were some beautiful moments out of that storyline, like when she paints Heloise and the maid, reenacting the abortion, and she's painting that, or, the scene where while she's actually getting the abortion, like there's a baby next to her. Like, there were some beautiful moments within that storyline, but it never went anywhere. It just like solved itself halfway through the film, and then it didn't really connect to anything else. So you didn't need that. I thought it was kind of like, even though I thought the pacing of the film was excellent, I did still think that you could have, if you cut that, it's 15 minutes shorter and the film's that much better, in my opinion. That's the only reason why I wouldn't give it a 5 stars.
The subplot, I didn't sit down, I should have, but I didn't sit down before doing this episode and like analyze the film like I would for an essay for school. And I trust the filmmakers, Celine Sciamma, so much with what the story she told, that there's 100% of purpose for that subplot. I literally just can't remember it now. And I have no problem that it didn't, like, on the surface level, go anywhere. It's a necessary change of pace instead of has them doing things together, which is interesting. I really liked the character of the maid. I thought it was super fun. There was some moments of comedy with her actually as well.
And like with her, like, I'm not saying the maid shouldn't be there. It should. But I was, I mean, you know me. I was thinking also beyond surface level. It's like, okay, what about these themes tied to, like, the wider scope of the narrative? And I really couldn't think of anything. So
it's such a brilliant movie. I'm sure there's reason.
I don't know. Maybe when you rewatch it, but in my opinion, I just thought it was kind of useless. To me, yes, it gave them other things to do, but they were already doing a lot. And I felt like if like in my mind I cut out the scenes where like it's the actual abortion, the conversations that they're having, the film wouldn't change whatsoever, like at all. And if anything, like the way in which it would progress, I think would still be better. It's my only flaw with the film. There were a few other things. I mentioned one thing to you before we started recording, but it's not really a flaw per se. But everything else I thought was excellent.
What I was saying earlier about this film being incredibly French in terms of French cinema, I don't know how they do it, but in more U.S. films or British films, more Hollywood stuff, when nudity is employed, it feels like it's like, hey, we've got nudity in our film, and tonally there's some the atmosphere around it is so strange compared to like this film where it's so nonchalant, and it doesn't feel like it's like, hey, there's nudity. It just feels like it's part of the world, which makes sense.
But I also feel like that's because that's how it should be. But I feel like that's because it's also a female director behind the camera, and like you can always tell when when a woman's made a film or a TV show or episodes or whatever, and there's nudity, the way it's approached is always so different. Yeah. And like that and I noticed that here, because at the beginning of the film there's just a shot of the main character, is it Marianne? I can't remember. Like this
let me look it up,
the central painter's name. But cast. Yeah, Marianne. Oh yeah, I got it right. Marianne and Heloise. I remembered.
Also, how good are the actors in this film?
Oh, the performances are excellent. Especially to me, like Marianne was great, but to me, Heloise, like who's played by Adele Haenel.
Well, we might be seeing
I thought she was
things.
fantastic.
She just got signed to CAA. I think that's what you call it, which is the biggest Hollywood talent agency.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was so good in it.
She's in most of or all of Celine Sciamma's movies, and they dated for a while, and they still work together, which is just also very French.
That is very French. That is very French.
Former lovers turned work partners. Where were we?
That's exactly what it is. But yeah, I thought the performances were great. And again, to me, it's just I thought it was a great film because the relationship was so strong, and I felt that intimacy between them, like, to me, was so palpable, and that chemistry was so raw in a way that I think most films are never really able to achieve, and only certain films I've seen I think are able to do that. And weirdly enough, the only other film I can really compare it to is another LGBTQ plus film, which again is Call Me by Your Name. And I thought it was so great here. One of my absolute favorite scenes is when Eloise is asleep and Marianne is sitting there and like just drawing her sleeping, but then she wakes up and they're just like staring at each other. It's like a 3 or 4 minute scene, and it, like, in reality nothing happens, but it's this great moment of like appreciation for one and the other. And I just thought it was so beautiful in certain moments like that. I thought it was, yeah.
What you were saying about having a female director is interesting, because I wanted to bring that up. There's, again, something very unique that this film captures, which I think has to do with having a woman director, is the physical touch. Is just filmed in such a unique way. It all feels so palpable and physical and just super interesting and intimate. And that level of intimacy is very unique. And I haven't seen a male director do something like that. And it reminded me of another film, which I've wanted to talk about on the podcast before. It's Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, I think that's the title, which was a Sundance film. That movie, also directed by a woman. Also, the way they portray physical touch and intimacy, very similar. But they completely flip it on its head and make it the most uncomfortable thing you've ever seen.
In that film?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was very interesting, and I thought of that when watching this.
Well, what I thought of when watching this was, you might watch it next year in one of the compulsory modules, because I had to. It's a film called The Piano. It was made in the 90s.
Oh, I know The Piano.
Yeah, okay. Directed by Jane Campion, also a woman. Yeah. And like that film did something similar to this film, where like there was such a focus on hands and movements, and the way that hands, like, whether, like, in that film, it's the way like her hands touch the piano, and then like also like, touch the skin of, her lover. That's not that film is a heterosexual romance, but it still applies, I think, to this, because they have a great attention to detail on Marianne's hands when she's painting and whatnot, and then that attention to detail and attention to like her hands and the physical contact is maintained in when they're hugging or kissing or about to have sex or things like that. And like I love that in both films, because I love that focus on hands, because like they reveal so much about where they are in their romance, which feels kind of dumb to say, but like there are points when like the closeness of her hands, you can see like her grab Eloise a bit tighter, or there's a softness to her touch and things like that. And like all those things inform the emotions and intimacy without words, which is like what true intimacy is, I think. And I think that's what's so beautiful about how this film is made. And again, similarly The Piano, and similarly Call Me by Your Name. And I just thought that was a great touch to this, because it's like, her hands are important when she's painting, that's what she's really creating with, but she's creating this new thing. She's literally creating love with Eloise. And I thought that was such a nice visual way to carry that across.
You mentioned the painter, or the painting earlier. And
Mm-hmm.
when I saw the film at the film festival, London Film Festival, the director mentioned how they got the person who actually painted the paintings, and the person, you actually see that their hands when it's close up. It's the painter's hands. From what I remember, it's they found the artist on Instagram.
Really?
Like some Instagram artist who specialized in doing like 18th century French portraits or some shit like that, and they were like
very,
hey,
very, very specific.
Yeah, no, and the paintings are great in this movie.
Yeah, no, they're
all
stunning.
The art is fantastic, and it's it's in a museum exhibit somewhere, or it's gonna be. So that's
really
awesome. Yeah, no, it's not in like the Louvre or anything, but it's gonna be in some sort of like film related. Yeah,
that's really
not
cool.
sitting in a basement somewhere.
Thankfully, no, the art of the film is definitely beautiful. And actually, you brought up two different scenes that are related that I thought were excellent, which is the scene where Marianne is taking the painting of Eloise from the previous painter, and she like lights it on fire.
Oh yeah.
And I love the placement of it because it's right on Marianne's heart. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so metaphorical of them to do that, because it's like her heart is literally on fire for like the passion and love that she feels for Marianne, but also there's such an anger and bitterness within her because she, like, by the end of the film, right, we know that they don't stay together and she has to go and marry off to someone else.
They can't stay together. This isn't like,
I knew that the whole time.
Yeah,
there's no way that they ever would.
There's no way you could.
Call Me by Your Name, I thought maybe when I was watching that.
There's not Call Me by Your Name, but it's set in the 80s, and if you suspend your disbelief, maybe they can.
Maybe, but no. Like in this, and I thought that's, to me, that was the purpose of it being a period piece, to just reinforce that tragedy of like there's absolutely no way they could ever work because of societal norms not dictating it.
No way.
I thought that was a really good choice on their part. Run off
together and like nuts. No way.
Never be seen ever again.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So that scene where she lights it on fire, but then of course the scene from the poster where, you know, there's like the little like ritual thing by the beach, and then like the bottom of her dress lights on fire.
And I love that because it's like they're playing with each other with their gazes, because they know they're always staring at each other. And she's like, "How long can we look at each other even though I'm on fire?" Like, it's so
it's great.
Also, the dialogue is so good and strong.
It is
strong.
It is. Like, it's clever because it's
clever and witty. I almost use the word witty.
It gives you exposition without like being exposition-y about it. It was like, it's all very under the surface, reading between the lines, like when they're setting up the story.
There's that
and then later on, it's great.
Where it's like, you don't have to get married, and it's like, no, I don't have to. And it's like, then you don't know, like you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know my.
Then you don't understand.
It's written. It's much better than what I just said. But that moment stands out to me as just the dialogue was wonderful.
See, to me, it was when it was towards the end of like their relationship, and they're talking about how Marianne resents Eloise for going through with the marriage, kind of, and like that scene, I thought was really great because it was saying a lot without actually saying it, and it was really clever how it was written. The writing did very much surprise me. I didn't think this would be the kind of film where I'd be like, wow, great writing, but wow, great writing.
So you're saying
it's really good.
A movie written by a woman can't have great writing, Ryan? Is that what you're saying?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. I'm a man. Of course, I have that opinion. But I thought, I thought that was so great how they handled like the main like quote unquote fight scene between them of like, because again, it was so raw, and it was just delivered so well, and I don't know.
And there's that
great payoff when like she runs down to her on the beach, because you think maybe, you know, something bad happened to her because they can't find her, and like, oh, she went for a walk, so you think, you know, maybe she killed herself like her sister, And then it's the relief that Marianne has when
that
he runs up to her on the beach, like the absolute relief, but also like the guilt of putting that on Eloise. Like that scene is so emotional, and on Marianne, thank you. No, that Marianne put on Eloise for like, I thought that was so great. And that scene reminds me of what I like about the film in general, which is they're really long takes.
Oh yeah.
And it's not even the camera moving or doing anything fancy. It's leaving it on the characters. I can't remember. Oh, there was a film last year that did that. That is not 1917, but there's another film that did that last year that like there were lots of one takes of like dramatic sequences that I thought like was excellent. And I love when films do that. And I love that this did it because it is so immersive, and it's so much a part of how you play, not how you play. I was thinking of The Last of Us for a minute because you were talking about the immersion in that, and I said immersion, and I thought that. But it's so emotionally involving because of that, and I admire that, and I really do think there's a soft touch that the director possesses.
Since you just mentioned
that reinforces the film.
Since you just mentioned it, we're probably going to touch on The Last of Us in a couple
like
of weeks,
2 or 3 weeks
when Ryan finally plays it. He doesn't have a PS4, but he'll play it like next week probably.
I'm borrowing the game and a PlayStation from one of my friends.
You have nice friends.
I've got very nice friends. Yes, I do.
And I finished it last night. It's incredible. And we're gonna have a lot of fun talking about that. It's worthy of talking about it on a Kino podcast, just because the story
it is
surpasses what a lot of movies can even try to do.
We talked about music videos, TV shows. We're gonna do a TV show again soon.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing different mediums. It's not just film. But yes, we will be doing that.
I think this is more of even though we focus on film, it's on storytelling. We both love story.
Yeah, I agree.
And Last of Us 1 and 2 are masterclasses in storytelling.
I haven't played 2, but like 1
does things when it comes to storytelling that I didn't think was possible from a franchise and a title with so much money and popularity behind it. It was so bold.
Risk taking is always a positive thing.
I would rather you take risks than play it safe, and
me too.
It did risks, and it totally worked. But going back to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because talking about this goddamn game.
We'll talk about it in a few weeks' time. So definitely something to look forward to.
It physically hurt me while I was playing it. Wow.
I can't wait. But yes, back to Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yes.
Let's talk about the voyeurism aspect a little bit.
Okay, so first of all, it completely recreates the shot from Vertigo. With what's the actress's name in Vertigo?
I can't remember that.
But you know the shot I'm talking about.
Yeah. The one towards the end, where she comes out and she looks like
Kim Novak from Vertigo.
Kim Novak.
If I look up Vertigo,
it was Kim something, and I couldn't remember.
I'll pull it up and put it on the video. People watching.
She was Madeline, and then she played Madeline, and then the second character, whoever that was. But do you mean like when Eloise is all in white and that shot?
No, they do it several times. But wait, I bet I can Google a comparison of that shot with Vertigo because it's so great.
That'd be great.
Let me just pull it up. Portrait.
See, to me, the strength of the voyeurism in this film was like the fact that it explored it from both avenues. It was the person who's supposed to be looking and their perspective, but also how that perspective is shifted when you realize that the person you're watching is also watching you. And the best scene that emulates that is when Eloise is like, come over here, come to the other side, where I'm posing for you. And she's like, you see me, but I see you. I look at my perspective. They may be different, but I still am watching you. I still see you. And they talk about their different facial movements or gestures that insinuate certain feelings that they might have. And that's a great great scene because it shows how much they know each other just through watching one another.
Oh, I
and
found
how
it
can be great, and how it can be like romantic and sweet, and not for like creepy, like perverted purposes, like which is what voyeurism is mostly used for in film. And I like that the fact that this removed that aspect of it, and instead was like, no, this is how people fall in love. They watch each other. And like, I love that aspect of it because it made voyeurism something that's very film based to something that is a part of everyday life, which it is.
I'm putting it on my feed for the video version if you're listening to this audio only. So this is from Vertigo.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the movie, you can tell the clear difference. The pose is similar.
Yeah.
That whole aspect of it's the same. And they recreate that multiple times, not just when she's posing for it, but even like this moment, which is probably my favorite shot from the film. She's doing the same pose, but backwards.
Yeah.
And that whole aspect, it flips the male gaze over on its head by having the Vertigo, that shot from that element from Vertigo, which comes from a director notorious for his voyeurism across multiple films. And so that part of it is super interesting to me. And you pick up on it so much easily, and it's like, damn, that's so interesting that they did that. Damn.
No, they that's the thing though. Like I don't think I've ever seen a film where the voyeurism is so much about both people. And it's interesting because then you start wondering, okay, well, Marianne is the voyeur and Eloise is the voyee.
Yeah.
But at some point that switches, and it continuously switches back and forth. Like that scene I mentioned early on about, Eloise in bed sleeping, and she's drawing her and wakes up. It's, you think it's, oh, Marianne is watching Eloise sleep, and it's her voyeurism. But then it completely flips. It's like, no, we're seeing Marianne as Eloise sees her, and I like those moments, even from within one scene, they switch back and forth between who's being observed and who the observer is, and that switching it back and forth allows for us to understand not only how they fall in love, but the greater scope of how voyeurism isn't just for like perverted means for characters in film, but are also ways that us as an audience can come to understand characters, and how the characters learn to understand each other. And I thought that was brilliant. And that like little bit of commentary, and again, we'll talk about the end more in depth because the end really hits that point home.
I can't believe we haven't talked about the ending yet.
We will.
Yeah. By the way,
I just thought they nailed that with their approach to voyeurism, and specifically like the painting aspect does lend towards that. But again, like you said, like the moments in like the moment where she's on fire at the bonfire, they're watching each other, and yet so when you even remove the painting aspect of it, it's even when they're out and doing stuff, it's that constant need to see the other. And that's how I liked at the beginning as well, that they framed Eloise from the back. They didn't reveal her face for a long time, and you would see how Marianne was so insistent on seeing her, and how important it was for Marianne to be able to see. And I thought that was a great way to start with, like, okay, so this is what traditional voyeuristic films do. One's following the other doesn't really know about it. Kind of sus. It's kind of weird. And it's always from behind, from the back. The other person's not fully aware of what the other one's looking for. But then the film slowly transitions out of that, and it goes, no, this is what voyeurism is, but this is what voyeurism can be, and we're showing you that. And I just think it's brilliant. I don't know how they approach that.
I can't get over that Joker poster in the background. Like,
let it go. It's not relevant.
Take it down.
I won't. I mean, for my room next year when I move out of here in a month, I'll have to pick and choose certain posters, but that one will definitely probably be up. How? No. Come on. No, ask the question. Now I want to know.
No, I'm not.
No, come on.
I'm not.
Are you gonna ask how I've got a girlfriend?
Yes.
Yeah, of course you are. Look, I'm as bewildered as you are, but Hey, that was actually the first film her and I went to go see together.
I remember that. You're telling me that. That's
because her and I were so adamant about it, and we had our first kiss right before the film started. So that film now has multiple reasons why it holds a special place in my heart. I love that film.
That's just
we will do a podcast episode on it one day. I really want to one day. I bet you rewatch it and you're like, wow, there are good things in this film.
Absolutely not.
If we watched it together, maybe I could use my analytical skills to be like, see how they're doing this and that. Isn't that brilliant?
We should actually watch it together.
Ryan, you can see that.
But I would probably punch you.
Yeah, there'd be moments where I'm like, oh, the analysis, oh, the metaphors, and you're just like,
the analysis, the metaphors. Oh, look at how cool it is that it says, "Kill the rich" on the newspaper on the floor.
This again.
That's so subtle. That's so brilliant. Bravo,
okay, I'm not saying it's a perfect film, but was it one of my 3 favorite films of last year? You tell me. That's a yes. It was. It's a great film. Anyways, is there anything else you would like to mention on the topic of voyeurism?
Not voyeurism.
Okay.
I just want to say in regards to, I wanted to ask you, when do you think Eloise picked up on the fact that Marianne was painting her?
That's a great question. Ooh, this reminded me of something I actually wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah. Because I think it happens way earlier than they let you to believe, in my opinion. Because there's that moment on the beach where she's just talking about how she got kicked out of. She got people at her convent and got mad at her because she used to doodle.
To draw, yeah.
Yeah, and
it was probably then, to be honest.
She was like, "So you draw?" And I was like, "Oh, the dialogue."
Yeah, it was probably then, to be honest, just because she could see that Marianne was watching her, and then like, oh, you draw.
Oh yeah,
you got to be a painter.
Oh, I love that shot where it's their profiles side by side.
And yes, that's such a great shot. Such a great shot.
Marianne look over, and then Eloise be like, "Huh?" And then
but it's great because it's
so
like,
good.
When they turn their head, it's like Marianne, when she doesn't see Eloise, there's only her, but you only see half of her. She's not full. She's not whole. But when she turns to look at Eloise, and Eloise makes up the other half of her face, it's like that's the missing part. Together they make a whole. And I thought that was an unbelievable shot. Like probably my favorite from the film.
It's so good. It's so good.
One of my favorites from the film. But I thought it was an excellent shot.
We haven't talked about the whole Orpheus aspect.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Which is just
which is great because it pays off in 2 different ways. When she leaves and she's like turn around and you are brought back to like, it's brilliant because she says that, and by saying that she's basically saying, I want you to have the memory of me more so than I want you to have me. And like I think that was brilliant how they did that. Right. I thought that was brilliant how they did that and set that up. And like she was having these visions of like Marianne in this white, Eloise in this white dress. I love
how they had that debate earlier in the film where it's like, did he really love her if he looked back?
That was and it pays off so well. And he's like, well, of course she did. And like, I love how each character had a different interpretation of it. Yeah, ultimately it was Eloise's that made up part of the end of the film. And
then it even comes their own interpretation. Did Marianne really love Eloise? Then?
Oh, I think they.
I think so, but like, to what extent was it just like, a very unique experience, or was it like life changing? Like, it leaves up to interpretation. Like how big of an event in this life, how big an event this could be in their life. And it just leaves it open to so many interpretations, and I adore that. That whole scene, one of my favorites from the film. I keep saying that, but it's a wonderful scene.
Yeah.
Because you have the maid pipe in and be like, the maid's called Sophie. You have the maid pipe in and be like, but what, he's so
why
stupid. Why do you look back?
Like,
and then they explain. It's so beautiful.
But
so
again,
clever.
their explanations are different. It is, and it even pays off better when you go to part like before the best parts of the ending of the film, when she's at that gallery and someone's like, I've never seen Orpheus portrayed this way. They're looking at each other, but it's not the point where one of them dies or one of them leaves. It's, you know, before that, and that pays off so well as well. Like, it just, that whole aspect of the film I thought was great. Now, before we move on to the end, there was one thing I wanted to mention, which was there's a beautiful scene that where Eloise is like, you know, do you know the first time you loved me? Like, I loved you, basically. And like, Marianne gives one and she's like, no. And then Marianne like gives another one, and Eloise never confirms it. She just like says something sweet to her. She's never like, yeah, that was it, or like, I love you for that, or anything like that. She never confirmed that. And I love that scene because, like, again, the intimacy is there. The camera just sits on the two of them in bed together for like 5 minutes. And I love that discussion because that is a very like true to life conversation that might happen. But I like how it plays in later because, in my opinion, that is not the story that Marianne gives is not when Eloise first loved her. In my opinion, and it relates to the end, it was when she first played music for her, which again, this is why the film doesn't have music, because Eloise, I don't know if you picked up on this. That moment
where she plays the music is incredible.
Yeah, but Eloise mentions the fact that she's never heard music. She's never experienced
organ music from her convent.
Right, which means to me the music is an association with love, and hearing music is like being in love. So the first time she hears music, and music is diegetically used in the film at that piano, to me that's the first time she loves her, which again is then played into the end in the final shot when the same music is played again. She's listening to an orchestra. She's listening to an orchestra, which again earlier in the film she said she'd never heard an orchestra before, and you can see the emotion in her face play out. Like they're reusing the score. Well, they're reusing that musical piece diegetically to be like that is the moment she fell in love, and that is the moment she will always remember. And I thought it was beautifully how they played that, because it wasn't overt like, this is when I loved you. Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's great. And then later it's obvious. It was put there for us to piece together, which to me was more rewarding, because I thought, you know, that gave me an insight into Eloise's mind when rarely did we get that opportunity. We were definitely more from the perspective of Marianne. And I thought that was brilliant and so bittersweet and just like so well done.
Did you see that
and to be honest, that's why I didn't mind there being no music, because it played a narrative purpose. It was linked to the characters and what they were going through. And I thought, like, you know what? Yes, there's no music, but there's a reason for it. It's not just like, oh, it's a period piece, you know, why would we have music? It's like, no, like literally a character hasn't heard music before because she's never experienced love. The point when she hears music is when she experiences love. And then later on, it's through love that she once again experiences music and searches it out. And it's just like the way it's cyclical, I think is just excellent.
Yep. I like that you picked up on why they chose not to have non-diegetic music throughout. It also the fact that you have moments with just them looking at each other in these moments of profound silence.
So good.
Ties into I just heard sirens in the background.
That was a honk.
Yeah. London.
Am I right?
It ties into what I was what I think Paul Schrader calls transcendental film, which he has a book on it. I have not read it. I tried when I was 17, 16, and I was just like, ooh, no, because it's heavy.
No, thank you.
It's heavy film theory, and it was for a school project, and I quickly realized it wasn't going to work, so I didn't try. But
fair enough.
Transcendental film. The idea is like the reason why you have moments of quiet in film. If I had to summarize this film theory very briefly, if you have moments of extreme quiet in film where characters are doing something that, like, where you'd think, why are you showing this? Like, what's the point? It allows the viewer to reflect on why they're keeping this silent. What are they doing? And so that ties in perfectly with what they do in this film. And so I just thought I'd pull in Paul Schrader, if I may.
No, that's a great point. Also, it's a great point.
I have one last thing to say before I say this. Before we talk about the ending, the apparitions that Eloise makes throughout the film multiple times, where she's in the white robe and she's kind of glowing.
Yeah.
I thought that was very odd the first time I saw it and didn't get it.
Me too.
Of course, it has to do with the Orpheus myth.
It pays off later on. Yeah.
Right, and your lighting is very blown out.
Here, let me
do
that. Maybe we can edit around that.
But
it was decent at the start. There we go. That's better.
That's fine.
Should be fun.
But so you get why they do that, and it pays off so well at the end. Before I get to the ending, did you see the clip a couple months ago when Roman Polanski's film won Best Best Director at the César?
I do remember.
Did you see that clip of Adele Hanel, who plays Eloise, and
walking out
and being like, I can't remember what she says, like "Vive la pédophilie" or some shit like that, and it was like them walking out. Also, approving of a pedophile, very French, because the Me Too really didn't hit them the same way
very French
in the US. If you read about how they react,
well, I mean,
in 2017,
everyone separates artists from art. Well, not everybody. Some people do. I do. But it's one thing. To an extent. It's different to reward them.
Yes.
Rewarding them is different than being like, that was a good film. I enjoyed that film. But being like, here you go, congrats, is like, that's a bit yikes. But
I'm still gonna say Kevin Spacey's performance in Seven is incredible, even though he's a dog.
Oh yeah.
Guy.
His performance in Usual Suspects, LA Confidential, Seven, like
he's a great
got
actor,
some fantastic performances. He is, but like and I'll always say he's a great actor, but I'm not gonna be like, give him an Oscar again. Like, no.
Well, I'm not gonna. I don't think he should be working again.
Well, that too.
Yeah. So, but I just thought that clip was very entertaining. But just standing up to the establishment is also very French.
It's very French. Everything about it is French.
So French.
Everything about Cannes is French.
It wasn't Cannes though. It was. Oh wait, it wasn't.
Was it not Cannes? It was Cannes. I thought.
No, it wasn't. Sorry, I said the César. The César is no. It was the César Awards. César Awards are different to Cannes. Cannes, they give out the Palme d'Or.
Yeah.
Why am I saying my French in an English accent? I'm talking.
But don't they give
So they give out the Palme d'Or, and then
directors though.
Yeah, they do, but they didn't give it to Polanski.
Oh, I thought that's why.
Polanski wasn't part of that. Fortunately, The On Fire did win best screenplay though. But then they have the César Awards, which the César Awards are separate from Cannes, and it's their own Oscars. Germany, I think, has the Golden Bear Award. It's something with a bear. So every country has their own Oscars. The UK has the BAFTAs. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
that happened at that ceremony, and I thought I should bring it up because I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the ending. So fucking bad.
Before we do, I remember there was one shot in relation to voyeurism that I forgot to mention, which was the scene where Eloise is. Well, no, when Marianne is painting Eloise and they're both like naked in bed.
Oh,
no, drawing her for like herself.
Oh, when the mirror is placed over the vagina.
Right. Where the mirror is placed over the vagina and she's looking at her and you see her reflection there. So you see Marianne looking at her, but then Eloise looking back at Marianne. And I just thought that was a brilliant shot. Like that was.
I love that.
That was a fantastic. So like, yeah.
Also, the focus on that
another
shot.
Great shot
If you look at it from a cinematography perspective, the focus on that shot is so tight.
Yeah, it is. Very specific.
The depth of field was very narrow.
Is excellent.
Yes, and
yes. So the ending.
Fast forward to the ending, which I think is one of the best endings in modern contemporary film history.
So what, like in the last 20 years?
I don't know. You know, I'm being very hyperbolic.
Well, that's contemporary. I know.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I go that far, but it is an outstanding ending.
It's out. You hold your breath throughout the whole.
great for two reasons.
It has like 3 different endings, which are incredible.
Yeah.
The ending where she's like, turn around, and then it closes the door and cuts the block. Incredible ending. Then That's great. Have the scene at the gallery, which
that made me cry
with Orpheus, and then you go over to the painting. She sees it, and it has the number 28 or 28.
It's like
28.
She's like lifted up to the page 28 where she drew that for her. Yeah, that made me cry.
I like to imagine the painter
that really got me.
Who did that? Who's like, "Ma'am, why do you want me to do this about? Just fucking do it."
Well, I imagine. Oh no, yeah, it would have been specific. Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, that would have been like, that's weird. Your finger's kind of weirdly placed. No, but you want that? Yeah.
She would have had to specifically request that the number 28 would be featured. And then you have the incredible. Also, my review on Letterboxd for when I saw this the first time was, never has a number made me cry before.
Oh, it made me cry.
Yeah, it's
that made me cry, which then set me up for more crying in the following scene, which to me is even better because
it's a better version of the Call Me by Your Name ending, in my opinion.
It is a better version of the Call Me by Your Name ending, because what I thought was so brilliant was mainly the performance, because as she's listening to the music, you can see on her face the expressions. You can see the memories come out, and you can see her relive the entirety of their relationship, all of it. And towards the end of that scene, you can see her smile and then like frown a bit, but then like there's a brief glint of a smile because it's like sadness that she left and it was over, but she's remembering, and that makes her happy. Also, and that's how they end the film. And I thought that was fantastic. Again, no words, all through diegetic music, which is a callback to earlier, which again references, how she fell in love and the importance of music in falling in love. But also, like I said, it's her remembering, and it's those memories coming out, and you seeing genuinely, truly how she felt in every way. And it's brilliant on that aspect, and then it's brilliant from the voyeurism aspect, because you're watching Marianne watch her, but they make a point to say that Eloise never saw Marianne. And I thought that is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant choice, because it shows that, to me, Eloise doesn't regret. She remembers, and she lives in those memories. But Eloise does regret it a little bit. She's still looking on. She's still yearning for it. And I love that dichotomy between how the characters approached it later on.
That everything you said is right. I'm an absolute sucker for super long shots that slowly push in, and that's what the film ended on. And I'm an absolute sucker for those. And when it retains perfect focus throughout the entire shot, absolutely astounding. Just the push in towards Eloise, and you can see her reliving the film, and you just see her kind of convulsing in tears, where she's like trying to hold it back, but you can see her kind of moving and breathing through it. Incredible performance.
Fantastic.
It's better than the Call Me by Your Name ending, even though they're very similar. I don't think Portrait of a Lady on Fire took Call Me by Your Name.
I think that
this is also a film I imagine was planned out years ago. Honestly, this isn't a.
The writing must have taken a long time, but like the actual.
But why it works better for me? Sorry, what I just wanted to. Why it works better for me is that, like you mentioned, it has more emotional payoff because it has the bit with the music, which they set up earlier. It's not just a Sufjan Stevens song, like in Call Me by Your Name. It has the bit with and again how she doesn't see Marianne. That whole aspect of it. Even though I like the Call Me by Your Name ending a lot, and the Timothée Chalamet performance in that aspect is incredible, this is just next level in terms of what they do.
See that? Because I thought the Call Me by Your Name ending was effective in that, like, you're sitting there with him and experiencing his heartbreak essentially, and that's great. But this does multiple things.
It does more. It does more.
It ties up it ties up the theme of voyeurism perfectly. It all leads to that one single point, which is Eloise has moved on and remembers, Marianne can't. And on top of that, the emotional attachment of seeing her relive the relationship, and we relive through her reactions, through the music. And again, having no music is not only brilliant from an Eric perspective, but just in general, because you go the whole film and there's almost no music, and then you get this huge sweeping score at the end to tie into how she's feeling and to mirror what she's going through. And that's beautiful, because even then, like, early on in the film, Marianne's like, oh, it's about a coming storm. And the music itself is so up and down when it comes to its tone, that it mirrors the reflection of how she's feeling. And it's just brilliant, because it works on, there are so many different layers. And again, like, we're not knocking the Call Me by Your Name ending, but it is worth comparing, because it's a very similar type of ending. But this is better, because I feel like this makes you relive the relationship in a way that is a lot more visceral than like some of the events of the actual film. Because as the film goes on, it is slower paced, but again, it works for me. It's an effective slow burn film. But oh shit, my alarm's about to go off.
Ryan's alarm went off, so we just cut out that part.
Which is not my fault. My building's when my building's alarm goes off, my whole building's alarm goes off.
Is it a check, or is it someone's alarm legitimately went off?
I think it's someone's alarm legitimately going off.
That happened a lot at my residence when I was living there, but it was not. So I don't think it was someone's alarm going off. They had just checks.
They have checks every now and again, but like, it's pretty frequent. Like, people's actual alarms just going off. So,
otherwise,
but as we were saying about the ending, it does make sense for us to compare it, but I do think it's a superior ending to Call Me by Your Name for like all those reasons we mentioned before. And honestly, it was more. It's strange to describe a film about romance to be visceral, but I felt like this was a visceral film. And, the ending only really hammers that home for me. And in a way, the ending actually reminded me of Whiplash a little bit. And, and of course, very different endings, but this was one of those where, like, what I really admired the most about the ending was probably the fact that the way it led up to it was each ending was more powerful than the last. So like, when she said goodbye, it's like, oh, heartbreak, saying goodbye. Seeing the number 28 in the painting, oh my God, she still thinks about me, even more heartbroken. 3, she thinks about me, she's remembering, but she's moved on. And that's the ultimate heartbreak. And I love how they pace that out, and they deliver. It's just, honestly, Moses, I'm very happy you picked this. I was so shocked that I loved the film.
Because normally you're super homophobic when it comes to LGBTQ.
Oh, sure, yeah. But even that, I thought maybe I would just like it. But no, I thought it was great.
You're one of the people that gave Last of Us Part 2 a 1 out of 10 on Metacritic.
Right? I haven't played it. I'm not one of those.
You review bombed. You created 10 alternate accounts on Metacritic to give The Last of Us Part 2 a low score, right? Because it features a gay character.
The fact that people like take the time to actually do that to me is insane.
I would love to meet someone like that, just to be like, what does this person look like? What joy do you get out of life? Like, what's
none?
Yeah, like, how can you lead a happy? First of all, how old are you? How can you lead a happy life? And
first of all, get a life.
Yeah. There's a gay character in my favorite video game. I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10 because I don't like it.
Well, that's people being like,
especially in a game where again, masterpiece. There are some valid reasons why you might not like it as much as the first one, but 1 out of 10.
It is something we will be getting into in the next couple weeks. After I've played it, we will discuss it on here.
It depends on how fast you play it. I played it shockingly fast. I think you're going to play it as well.
I'll probably steam through it because,
also, you have no one shaming you not to do it. You're living alone.
That's true. That is very true.
Get out of your room. I did it
Yeah, I don't.
And my parents kind of judged me for playing a whole game in 4 days. I can tell.
I don't.
Giving me bad looks.
This is different though. It's
No,
different.
I warned them
we
beforehand, being like, "You might not see me for a couple days."
That's fair. I mean, we will talk about that in a couple weeks' time. But
I'm
for
very
now,
excited for
any
that.
closing
thoughts on Portrait of a Lady on Fire?
film?
I think we've wrapped up everything I wanted to say on the film. It's incredible. I love it dearly. I think it is one of the best films of last year. It is one of.
Do you have any flaws with it? Because I mentioned mine, but you didn't really mention anything.
Nothing that I'd overtly say is a flaw. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing where I'm like that's wrong.
Sure.
When it comes to like where I would rank it in my favorite films of last year, it just comes down to personal preference.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Like it's a personal thing, but I don't see any flaws, and I'm like, that's of course no movie is without flaw, obviously.
No.
But there's nothing where I'm like, that was bad. They shouldn't have done that. If I wrote it, going back to Last of Us, I would actually write it this way. I live in my mother's basement, but I know exactly how to make a better story than these professional writers.
Yep, that's exactly what I think. Well, I had that one slight issue with that subplot, but overall, I think it's a fantastic film, and like, I think it's genuinely probably one of the best romance films I've ever seen, just because like.
Ryan, you big softy.
Shut up. It's just, it's very visceral, and it feels very genuine and really honest, and that enforces the heartbreak later on, and like the way that they set up so many things that they pay off. It was a brilliant film. It was a great, fantastic film.
You like the romance, dude?
that little cat turn was all you knew. Like
you go. Did you get soft, dude? Did you get soft, dude?
Bro, I've always been soft. That sounds funny. I'm gonna repeat that.
Did you get
I've always
soft,
been emotionally soft.
Yes,
I have.
Beta cook. I bet you like The Last of Us Part 2.
Wait, you're gonna call me a simp now?
Just
because it's true doesn't mean you should call me that, okay? God,
you're
respect my simp culture. Thank you very much.
You're a simp for French cinema?
No. Oh no. Am I a simp for Christopher Nolan? Probably yes, but oh no, not for French cinema.
My respect for your boy has fallen in the past few weeks as I read more about the Tenet situation.
A little bit, but like, I get it.
The fact that Warner Brothers apparently wanted to delay it more, and he was like, "No, it has to be now." That's my.
But he is. It's not just for him to release the film. He's also genuinely concerned about the state of cinemas being around after all this, and he wants to get it going again. And I don't think they're
going to be leaving anytime.
No. Well, I mean, we'll see how it all turns out. Anyways. That's Portrait of a Lady on Fire for us.
Portrait de la jeune fille en feu. Which is interesting because the
Portrait de la jeune fille en feu.
Yeah, Portrait de la jeune fille en feu. Portrait de la jeune fille en feu. It's funny that the direct translation isn't exactly accurate because the direct translation in English would be Portrait of the young
lady on fire.
Young girl on fire.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, fille is girl. Yeah.
Portrait de la jeune fille en feu is Portrait of a young girl on fire.
Yeah, young girl on fire.
That they changed it.
But lady sounds better, so it's not a young girl. That's why the direct translation doesn't work. But Moses,
I actually don't know how old she's supposed to be in this movie.
Well, they're both supposed to be in like their 20s, but young girl makes it sound like they'd be teenagers.
Is it Call Me by Your Name?
Obviously not.
15.
I mean, they don't look like it, but maybe that was the intention. But all right, what's on for next week then, Moses? What are we talking about next week?
We're going to be talking about Bad Education, which came out recently. It's an HBO film starring huge Jackman.
I like it. Nice.
Who is an actor who I like in most things. He should not be in the Last of Us TV show, since we were just talking about Last of Us.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. You people want him to be Joel because they look really similar. But he already played that type of character in Logan, so why do the same again? God, no.
Good point. Very good point.
That's a story that took inspiration from Last of Us. Very, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Why would you have him do it again?
I agree.
Yep. So,
but Bad Education
is a good film. We can talk about some of our high school gossip that recently broke out.
Yes, we will definitely be mentioning that.
It's fun.
And I'm excited to see it because I like seeing Hugh. I think Hugh Jackman's a great actor, even outside of being Logan.
It's one of his best performances.
And I'm excited to see it for that reason because I think Prisoners is still his best performance.
Probably that moment in Prisoners where he peeks the mic is incredible. Stays with me.
I still think he should have been nominated that year, but that's just my opinion. Yes. All right, well, I think that'll do it for us today. Moses, where can people find us?
We have an email, thegoodthebadandthekino@gmail.com. Email us, bitches. I don't know what to do. Yeah. So aggressive. Fuck you.
Yeah, just come after us,
Yeah, fuck you. You gave Last of Us Part 2 a 1 out of 10 score on Metacritic without actually playing the game. Fuck you.
Well, hopefully that one person's listening.
The fun thing about people actually finishing the game is that people who actually finish the game actually seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's almost like seeing clips out of context and hearing leaks isn't what the final product is. Interesting enough.
Yep. Very interesting.
Otherwise, we have our Letterboxd accounts in the description of the episode. If you're not watching this on YouTube, we have a video version on YouTube. You can subscribe to that. You can see our pretty faces.
Yep.
Also, we've started making more visual jokes that don't translate to an audio medium, so I apologize if you're listening to this.
Factual. But it doesn't matter fully.
You won't see me turn my hat to make fun of Ryan.
That did make that got a good chuckle out of me. But yeah, guys, tune in next week for Bad Education. Watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire if you haven't seen it. It's really worth your time.
Dude. You got soft.
Shut up. I like being soft, emotionally speaking.
After playing Last of Us
Part
2, I am emotionally crippled.
Moses is gonna need time to recover, but
I do.
That's fair enough, man.
If I hadn't finished the game by the time we were recording this podcast, my vibe would be very different. I would just be like this
the whole time. That quick, but
I didn't think I would, but I did, and I think you'll finish it pretty quick too. I was just like this.
I will.
I would just be like this the whole time if I hadn't finished the game, just like reveling in my own despair. And I still am, but it's different.
That's fair.
As a recommendation, play the game.
And watch Portrait Lady on Fire as well.
And please watch Bad Education before next week's episode. And then we've got some interesting stuff lined up, especially if Ryan actually gets to playing the game.
I don't know by next week, but
I'm not saying by next week. Sure. No. I wasn't saying he'll play it by next week, but I hope everyone has a good week. Stay Kino, everybody.
Yes. And, stay Kino. Have a good week, everybody. See you next week.
Keep it Kino.
Keep it Kino. As always, wise as ever, Moses. And show.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.